All right, I'll go ahead and call to order the Traffic and Parking Committee for Ward 1. Just a reminder, under City Code, the mayor, police chief, and director of public works sit on the Traffic and Parking Committee, as well as the two elected council members for the area in discussion, which would be Riverland, Riverland, and so that's Ward 1. So we've got Councilmember Mosley and Councilmember Saunders. Basically, we're here to discuss the addition of a bike and pedestrian lane along Riverland, continuing from Monmouth Boulevard all the way down to the end there. So this is designed to be an informal meeting. If y'all want to talk, just literally hop up at any time, raise your hand, throw tomatoes at them, and let's have it. I will give you a little bit of info. This was a request that came in formally from the Turtle Creek POA and Maumelle Heights POA. I gave you all a letter that I received. It seems like a reasonable request. It also is something I've had a bicyclist on at least one occasion recommend that. They thought that road was wide enough for it, and it just kind of provides a little bit of a protection. What we are talking about is a stripe down that lane, down that road. We already have money in the budget for striping, so there's no additional costs associated with this decision. It would just mean that we'd stripe that area and not a different area. We did a traffic study on that area. I provided a copy of that to y'all in the email that went out. There's not really a big problem as indicated by this. That doesn't mean that there aren't people speeding, just that the bulk of people are going within 10 miles an hour of that limit. The speed limit in that area is posted at 25. So we look at the enforcement level as being 35 and less. We have less than 10% of traffic exceeds 35. So you may have seen in the speed enforcement evaluator, it's all in the green. It's about as low as we'll see for any road. That does not preclude, in my opinion, the addition of the bike lanes, which do provide protected or a sense of protected walkway, as well as anytime you narrow a road, it tends to slow the traffic up and down there. This is a collector level road. Similar collectors are Country Club Parkway, Arnold Palmer. Both of those have something very similar to what we're talking about. So with that, I'll go ahead and open the floor for anyone that wants to say anything. Just please hit your mic or come up to the mic. The floor is yours.
My darling bride and I ran over there and drove around because I had been on Riverland Drive, but I had never viewed it from that perspective. And I personally feel like this is a safety issue, because by putting the white lines on the sides for walkers, joggers, and bikers, it keeps traffic away from them. So I kind of view this as a safety issue, and it's almost like a no-brainer for me. Are you talking about putting a stripe down the middle too, or just on the sides?
It has a stripe down the middle. The yellow stripe.
Okay.
Or at least it should. We'll go out, and I'm looking at a photograph here, and I drive it every day. My kid's rule is if he's on his bicycle or more likely his scooter, that he just can't go past Riverland, so he can go down Platte and like. But I don't want him on Riverland, which I might feel a little more comfortable with if there was a bike lane. Floor's open, of course, to staff as well as the public. Come on forward.
Hi, my name is Genevieve Gilbert, and I live at 404 Riverland Drive. And just opening, I'm curious, what's the procedure for the decision to be made about the stripe? Would it be a vote tonight, or how does it progress?
Yes, so a vote tonight, and we'll put it out. I'm obligated under city code to notify the city council of the committee's decision. The city council could trump the decision made tonight and go forward with that. But the idea being is if this committee thought it was a good idea, we'd notify the council on Tuesday in the packet, brief overview of what the decision was, and then it would be put in queue for Public Works to have striped.
Okay. So again, I live at 404 Riverland Drive, and if you're familiar with Riverland, when you turn off of the boulevard, it goes slightly up a hill with speed bump, and then you start going back down the hill. And my house is the white brick one to the right as you come across the top of the hill. So for me, it's been an issue for a long time, people not observing the speed limit. And I know you said that less than 10% of the traffic exceeds 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. But for me, as someone who walks that road, runs that road, bikes that road often, that can make a big difference. And especially when I had a small child living in the area. Many years ago, we approached the city about this, and a traffic feasibility study was done. And the result was that there was a children at play sign put up on our end of Riverland, that is on the other side of the hill. And that's nice, and it did help, but it didn't solve the problem. And my mailbox is directly on the street. And so when we go out to check the mail, it's unavoidable to stand in the street. And sometimes people come over the hill and they may be distracted by their telephones. They may be in a hurry to get home. And they don't watch exactly where they are on the street. The lane is wide there when you come across the top of the hill, and people tend to veer over to the right. So it's an uncomfortable feeling when I'm checking the mail to have a car maybe not paying attention. Riverland does not have sidewalks except for very limited exception. We have sidewalk on our lot and the lot next to us, and I believe the following lot. Besides that, there are no sidewalks. So anyone in the neighborhood who wants to get out on the street is actually on the street. And again, the cars don't tend to pay much attention to where they are on the road. And this makes it unsafe. I appreciate you pointing it out that it's a safety issue in your view, because in my view, it's also a safety issue. And when you've got children on the street, which there are, you've got other people out enjoying the street, we should do what we can to make it a safe place for the residents of Riverland. But also we get people coming in training on Riverland because of the hill. I've seen cross-country people out there training. Now, I can't say whether they were Riverland residents or not, but multiple young men out running on the hill gives me an impression that they were coming there to train on the hill. It's not only me who feels this way. I think that's obvious because the two POAs came together to submit this request. And also it's my understanding that someone did come and speak to City Council a couple of years ago about Riverland and about having lanes, and I believe you mentioned that the city had been addressed by a cyclist maybe to have a lane added.
I know that I have somebody personally came to me that I just met in public and said, boy, they'd love it if there was a bike lane that put in there.
Okay, well, I believe someone also came in and addressed City Council a couple of years ago about it. Another thing I'd like to note, when you first turn onto Riverland from the boulevard, for a very long time there was a sign there that said, drive like your kids play here. So it's not only people on my end of the boulevard who are getting this feeling from the traffic. I think it's anyone on the Riverland. And again, it's a heavily used road as far as people walking, biking, running. One more thing is that I think it would add also to Maumel's general path system, because you can come down the boulevard on the sidewalk, turn into Riverland Drive, and pick up an extra 1.5 mile loop if you go all the way down around the cove and back up. So it's just an additional thing for the residents of Maumelle to be able to get their fitness in safely. I think that's all I have. Do we have anything else?
No, I think you know, I think it is, Frank. I'm Ray Veach, and I live on Turtle Creek, which is in Riverland there. And Geneva and I are on the board of Turtle Creek POA. And as she mentioned, the Maumelle Heights POA is the board, and members are in favor of this as well. And to me, it is a safety issue. The street is wide, and when you come over that hill, the first thing, I mean, it's just a wide street. So, and the hill kind of, as you come over the hill, the road kind of goes back to the left a little. So if you're Geneva, especially where she lives there, if you're coming over that wide street and the hill and the road kind of veers left, you have a tendency to, I'm guilty. I've done the same thing. And so to me, it is, as you said earlier, just having those stripes, I think causes people to slow down. It does for me on Arnold Palmer and on Country Club Parkway, and I think we'll get the same results if we add those lanes. And we are talking about lanes on both sides of the road, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess it'd be up to the committee. I was thinking and assuming y'all wanted that, and it would make sense to do that.
And
Well,
I would.
Now, I don't know, at Turtle Creek, the road narrows down some, and I don't know whether there'd be room for stripes on both sides or not. I wouldn't want to make that decision, but
I don't know either.
it might need to be two all the way to Turtle Creek and then drop to one
You're
side.
talking about from Turtle Creek down to Crystal Mountain.
Down to the end.
Yeah.
Which is roughly 50 yards, I'd say.
Yeah.
And Arnold Palmer does the same thing as it gets closer to Club Manor. Instead of having two walking lanes on either side, it funnels down to one side. So
we
Mike
might
can
need to
do
do
the same
that
thing.
there too.
Yeah.
We would, we would need to make sure that there's this, and I don't have the dimensions, but the standard width in the more narrow part for both lanes of traffic, and if that meant going down to one lane, we do have precedence to do that. If we could fit two in safely, we'd try and fit two, unless this committee advised otherwise.
I think once you reach the Turtle Creek, if you're going beyond that there's a stop sign coming up real quick there, so you're slowing down anyway, or at least you should be slowing
Plus
down.
visibility is good, and you should be slowing down, or
Right.
whoever lives at the end there. And I know that when I go over the hill, I always have a tendency to go to the side because you have a little bit of a blind spot, and you don't want to meet somebody not paying attention coming over in your lane of traffic. So
Exactly.
it would be that. We know that with a lot of the subdivisions we have going in, even some that are collectors, we are in some cases trying to engineer those roads down more narrow because they do serve as a traffic calming device. And so you can get that not quite to the same extent as if you narrow the curbs in, but you get that a similar effect by adding the bike lanes, and then the driving area is more narrow. I would like to give, I asked both Mike Hogan and Chief Pickard if they thought that there was any concerns that jumped out to them, so I'll let y'all speak.
Yeah, we would like to know if there's any questions or concerns, or anybody has any objections, or maybe we can solve them or whatever.
The police department doesn't have any concerns or objections to this.
Neither does Public Works.
And I've been racking my brain, why not? The only reason that I could, two reasons, and I'm not saying they're good reasons, the only two reasons that I could think of would, one, cost. If we didn't have money in the budget already for striping, then it'd have to come from somewhere. We do have that built into the budget currently, $25,000 a year for striping. Not just new striping, but to go through areas that need refreshing. Second area I could think of if I was just really racking my brain would be if you put a bike lane here, is someone else going to ask for it elsewhere? And some sort of slippery slope argument. Neither of those are compelling to me personally, but if I was just trying to rack my brain as to why what the downside could be, those would be the two that I could think of.
I know that we have the money in the budget for striping, but there's some striping, and I'm not in Public Works, I'm not in the street department. Is this striping that we can do in-house, or are we gonna have to get a third party to come in?
I'll answer that. I bet Michael say they can do it in-house. I'm trying to get away from that because when we do it in-house, it's of a different quality, and Mike can speak to that. With that 25,000, the goal was to take that budget amount, go through the areas that need it most, and just contract that out for one big citywide contract.
Right, and Public Works is not really set up to do that big of a job, you know, more like parking lot striping and small stuff like that. So we would need to get somebody in that had the equipment to do it.
You guys have the walk, you have to walk and
We do, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want the trucks that go through, and you can lay a higher quality paint down.
A lot quicker too.
A lot quicker, and I need to verify whether some streets we're trying to use the newer or the higher quality paint that lasts longer, is reflective, and has You can see it's noticeably thicker than, some of it looks like spray paint. And some of the roads that we envision overlaying soon, but we don't want to wait to put the striping down, we'll use the cheaper paint because we think we're going to, in a few years, have to overlay it or put some sort of coating down. For those that we're looking at that we don't think need overlaid anytime really soon, we're trying to put the paint that'll last longer.
This doesn't pertain to this, but looks like the boulevard, Maumelle Boulevard, Highway 100 is getting striped. On the way over here, they had the placards up behind the truck that went through and was doing the painting, so that's good.
You mentioned the cost, and I don't want to spoil where we seem to be on this, but there's some grass, there's some cracks in the road, and grass, weeds are growing up, and I don't know if that could be addressed during the striping, but I mean, we'll take it any way we can get it. But
yeah, no. So those are two very different things. Some of it is depending on the level of crack. We're going through a pavement preservation program. We've brought in some consultants outside to determine the best way to do that. Some of that will be crack sealed, which is just, I mean, it's guys behind a truck spraying those, and those are the ones that look like lines, black kind of spiderweb lines. And so we're looking at doing that. There's some areas where those, especially the cul-de-sacs on the way up Riverland from the boulevard, where those cul-de-sacs are coming down and it's really beat up and worn. We're looking at overlaying, is it Platte Cove, I think is what we're looking at, and trying to get those, but we need to address some of the drainage issues that are causing that. But no, those would be two different contracts and different sorts of companies. Ma'am, you've had your hand raised.
Good evening. I'm Elke Gilbert. I live at 108 Turtle Creek Cove. I agree with everything that was said here before. I would like to stress the issue of safety. The stripe for pedestrian and bicycle lane would really help. There are not only children playing, running in and out, but a lot of seniors walking, including myself. And it's not a good feeling if a car comes over the bumps and passes you by like you're standing still. So in my opinion, it would really, really be helpful and maybe even save someone from having an accident or worse. That's all I have to say to that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a couple of comments here. I'm assuming you said the paint was in the budget already, and you haven't already committed your paint to other things already, so it would get done maybe this year, you think, or what?
It would be done with this year's budget.
This year's budget?
Probably, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we could probably, hopefully get it in this year.
So what we wouldn't do is go contract out for just this road. Right now, we've been looking at the streets that need overlay. We'll put that out and then get that as one big contract. And the idea is to, with that same company, I think, or we'll just reach out to the sub that does the striping, and we'll do it citywide. That 25,000 isn't going to stripe the whole city. Let me assure you that. But we'll identify those roads and then have one company come in and do all of those striping at the same time. And it's this year's budget and hopefully before the rainy season.
Okay, sounds good. I assume there'd be like a little bicycle man in the paint or something to, okay.
Yeah, and that's something that we do in-house after it's been striped.
All right. And yeah, I don't think I've seen anything else like Stay Right or anything like that, but just the bicycle guy, I guess. Okay, that's pretty clear. And did you say the council needs to vote on this, or it would just be informing the council?
The city council, the code requires that I notify the council of this committee's decision.
Okay.
The council could veto it, so it'll be on an agenda item. This is what happened at the Traffic and Parking Committee. The council's free to say, oh, that's the most insane idea I've ever heard of, and I vote to stop that, though. I wouldn't imagine.
I wouldn't anticipate that. So.
In fact, if anything, I envision someone else saying, well, hey, I think this is a great idea. Let's look at it over here.
Okay. Okay, that's all I've got. I'm in favor of this, so whenever you want to vote, I'm ready to vote.
Make a recommendation that we give a due pass recommendation to the city council on this.
Well, Councilmember Saunders, we would, I'd prefer just a motion to put a bike lane in rather than recommend it to the council, because I think this committee has the authority to make that decision on its own. So
Okay.
I'd entertain a motion to
So moved.
put a bike lane in on Riverland. I had a motion. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Oh my gosh, Chief got a second, didn't they? Is there any additional discussion on that? Any final words? Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. That is the sole item of business before this committee, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I've got a motion. Did I hear a second over there?
Second.
All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you, John.